30, and I'm so looking forward to sharing some stories with you. I'm not sure how I can tell if anyone is commenting. I've yet to figure that out. So anyway, today we're going to start with The Princess and the Pea. And I thought I might even be able to show some of the pictures as we go along. Okay? Once upon a time, there was a prince who wanted to marry a princess, but she had to be a real princess. So he traveled around the world to find one. There were a great many princesses, but he was never sure whether they truly were real princesses. There was always something not quite right about them. At last he returned home very unhappy because he could not what he was looking for. I feel like I keep looking up at the camera. Let's try this. One evening there was a terrible storm with thunder and lightning and rain pouring down in torrents. It was dreadful. Suddenly there was a loud knocking at the castle door, and the king hurried to open it. There on the doorstep was a princess. She was drenched. Water ran down from her hair and her clothes. It ran down from her hair, it ran down to the tops of her shoes and out of her toes. Nevertheless, she insisted that she was a real princess. We'll soon find out, thought the queen, eyeing the bedraggled girl. However, she said nothing and went to prepare a bedroom for the unexpected guest. She stripped all the bedding off and placed a pea on the base of the bed. Then she took 20 mattresses and laid them on the pea. Laid 20 quilts on top of that. Then the queen showed the princess where she had to spend the night, and the girl climbed in thankfully. The next morning, the king and queen asked her how she slept. Oh, here's a picture of the bed. See, she's sitting on top of all those mattresses and all those quilts. So the next morning, the king and queen asked her how she slept. Oh, terribly badly, she said. I hardly shut my eyes all night. Goodness knows what was in that bed. It was something very hard. And now I'm black and blue all over. By this answer, the queen knew she was a real princess. Only a princess would be sensitive enough to feel a pea through 20 mattresses and 20 quilts. The prince at long last had found his real princess, whom he married, and the pea was placed in the museum where it can be seen today, if it's not been. Okay, so there is The Princess and the Pea. Have we had anyone hear it? We had one person on. So let's read another one. How about The Emperor's New Clothes? That's not very long. I didn't realize Princess and the Pea was quite so short. So I've got 4 people online. Tell me who you are by writing something in the comments. Now that I can see where those are. Okay, The Emperor's New Clothes. Here's the picture on the top of that one. Okay. Many years ago, oh, and here's the front of the book. Many years ago, there was a grand emperor who was so fond of his new clothes that he spent all of his money on them. Every hour of the day, he changed clothes. Whether he was inspecting his soldiers, going to the theater, taking a walk. The real reason he went was to show off his clothes. The capital was a very lively city thanks to the many tourists who visited it. One day, two thieves arrived who, knowing of the emperor's fondness for clothes, spread the story that they were weavers and that they knew how to weave the most magnificent cloth in the world. Not only were the colors and the patterns outstandingly beautiful, but the clothes made from this cloth were magic. They were invisible to every person who did not do his job properly. Clothes are beyond price, thought the emperor. If I had a suit of this cloth, I would know which men in my government were not fit for their jobs, and I'd be able to pick out the wise men from the fools. Yes, I certainly must have this cloth. Okay, here's a picture of him buying the cloth. Okay, he gave the thieves a large sum of money and asked them to start work immediately. They set up two looms and acted as if they were weaving, although there was nothing at all to be seen. They constantly asked for the finest silk yarn and gold thread, but really they hid everything in their bags and just pretended to work long into the night on the empty looms. I'd like to know how far they've gotten with my cloth, thought the emperor a few days later. But he was afraid to go himself when he remembered that anyone who was stupid, whoops, or no good at their job could not see the cloth. Although he was sure he had nothing to fear, he decided it'd be better to send somebody else to check the cloth before he did. I will send my faithful old minister to the weavers, decided the emperor. He is the best person to examine the cloth. He's an intelligent man, and he does his job very well. And so the honest old minister went into the room where the two thieves were working at their empty looms. Oh, good heavens, he thought, when he looked and he opened his eyes wide. I cannot see a thing. But the minister did not say anything. The two weavers beckoned him closer and asked him what he thought of the design and the colors, pointing to their looms. The old man stared at them closely, but he still could not see anything, for the simple reason there was nothing to see. Oh dear, he thought, am I really unfit for my job? I cannot see the cloth. It's beautiful. It's quite charming, said the minister out loud while he put on his glasses. That design and those colors. Yes, I will tell the emperor that I am very pleased. We're delighted to hear you say so, said the two weavers, chuckling heartily. That meant they were laughing at the minister. The swindlers then asked for more money, silk yarn, and gold thread. They needed a lot for this cloth, they said. But again, they put everything in their own pockets. The looms remained empty, and they kept on pretending to work. Soon afterward, the emperor sent another honest courtier to examine the cloth. That means somebody from his court of people that he trusted. The same thing happened to him as to the minister. He stared and stared for a long time, but he didn't see anything because there was nothing there to see. Isn't the cloth lovely? Asked the two thieves, while they stroked and exclaimed over the superb design and the beautiful colors that didn't exist. I'm certainly not stupid, thought the man. So does this mean I'm not very good at my job? This is very tricky. I will have to be very careful if I'm not to be found out. So he praised the cloth and assured them how delighted he was with their choice of colors and patterns. No cloth this beautiful has ever been made before, he told the emperor, and the story of the magnificent cloth was on everyone's lips. At last the emperor decided to go and see the cloth for himself while it was still on the loom. Accompanied by a large number of chosen men, amongst whom were the two men he'd sent before, the emperor paid a visit to the two cunning thieves who were still at the looms, busily pretending to weave nothing. "Isn't this magnificent?" said the two men who'd already seen the work. "You perfectly," and they pointed at the empty loom. "What is this?" thought the emperor. "I don't see anything. This is terrible. Am I a fool? Am I not capable of governing? This is the worst thing that could have happened to me." Then suddenly he said out loud, "This is magnificent. I am extremely pleased with it. Please make it into a suit of clothes for me." Okay, so here is the emperor, whoops, looking at the looms, seeing nothing. He doesn't want to tell anybody. Okay, he nodded in satisfaction while he looked at the loom. He did not dare to tell the truth. All the people he had taken with him stared hard as well, one after the other. Although they couldn't see anything, they repeated after the emperor, "It's magnificent. It's charming. It's beautiful." Everyone appeared happy with the result, and the emperor commanded that there was to be a procession the next day, at which he would wear his new suit. When the two crooks were giving knighthoods, and then they received the title of gentlemen weavers. That night they sat up working in the light of 16 candles. They pretended to take the cloth from the loom. They cut a large pair of scissors, and they sewed with a needle that had no thread in it. Finally, they declared with a great flourish that the suit was finished. Together with his court workers, the emperor went to see the finished clothes. The two thieves both stood with their arms in the air as if they were holding up something. "Here is the jacket, and here is the cloak. They are as light as a feather, so light it may seem that you're not wearing anything, but that is one of the important qualities of this cloth." "Yes, of course. Yes, of course," answered the men of the court, but they did not see anything. After all, there was nothing to see. "Would your highness be graciously pleased to take off your clothes?" asked the thieves. "Then you can try on the new ones in front of the big mirror." The emperor took his clothes off, and the thieves pretended to dress him. He turned around and around, and I'm reading to know. Good gracious, how well it suits me! How well it suits His Majesty! What a perfect fit!" exclaimed all the court workers. "What style! What colors! What a wonderful suit!" Then the chief master of ceremonies enters. "The canopy which is to be carried over your Majesty in the procession is waiting outside," he said. "Excellent! I'm ready," answered the emperor. "I think I look quite good in these clothes." And he twirled in front of the mirror one more time to look at the splendid suit. Are you ready to see the suit? Woo! His booty's sticking out there. He's naked. The attendants who had to carry the cloak's long train pretended to pick it up from the ground. Then they held their hands if they were holding the train because they didn't want anyone to think that they couldn't see it. The emperor walked proudly in the procession under his beautiful canopy, and all the street and at the windows cried, "What a splendid costume! How gracious the train is! What a perfect fit!" Excuse me. Nobody would let anyone else think that they couldn't see anything. Never had the emperor's clothes been so admired before. Then a little child pushed to the front of the crowd. "But it's not wearing anything!" he cried. "Heavens, listen to the voice of innocence," said the child's father. But soon afterward, all the people started to whisper and repeat the child's words. "There is a little child who says the emperor isn't wearing any clothes at all," whispered the crowd. "Indeed, there are no clothes at all!" everyone exclaimed at last. The emperor felt extremely foolish, for he realized that they were quite right. However, he held his head up high and continued until the end of the procession. The attendants continued respectfully carrying the train that did not exist until at last they were once again safely in the palace. And do you know, the emperor was never quite so vain about his clothes after. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. We'll do this again another day. How about tomorrow?